Welcome to a very special episode of the Metal Matt Podcast. And this is special because we are going to be reviewing Disney movies. That's right, all the Disney theatrical movies that have come out from Snow White to Frozen. And what we're going to do here is, for this episode, I'm going to be talking about the movies that came in the 30s and 40s. Alright, so there's no news I need to talk about. Let's just go right ahead and shoot the shuffle, because we have to do that. And at number one, I'm going to get through this very quick. At number one, Chucky Proposes / Plastic Love by Graham Revell from Bride of Chucky. Bride of Chucky obviously is my favorite film. You already know that. And if you don't, Bride of Chucky is my favorite movie. So, yeah. And this is a really cool one. Kind of has a really cool guitar and all, so it's really good. Number two, Conquest by Judas Priest from Nostradamus. This is a pretty interesting song, and it's a pretty interesting album in itself, you know. It's a concept album about the prophet, or Nostradamus. I don't know if he was actually a prophet or not, but he's obviously the one that predicted the end times and all that stuff, so... And Judas Priest did an album about him. And I think it's pretty cool, but it's not Judas Priest. But it's an interesting album to listen to. Number three, Hello There by Cheap Trick from In Color. Really cool intro to In Color, and Cheap Trick is awesome, an awesome power pop band. Number four, Falling Apart by Zebrahead from MFCB. Really cool, I guess they would be punk band, I guess. I really don't know. But they were featured on Day of Reckoning, WWE Day of Reckoning, and WrestleMania 21, and all those video games. And this is a really good song. Though I kind of like their song Alone better than this one. Number five, Cleansed by Fire by Alice Cooper from The Last Temptation. Really good closer to The Last Temptation, which I think is a very underrated album by Alice Cooper. Number six, God Gave Rock and Roll to You Too by Kiss from Revenge. Great, epic song. Obviously, it was in Bill and Ted, and that's a really cool song. It's a testament to their late drummer, Eric Carr, who I think was Kiss's best drummer, but that's just me. Number seven, Birthday by the Beatles from the Beatles. Probably the best birthday song of all time. Number eight, The Saga Begins by Weird Al Yankovic from Run with Scissors. Great Star Wars song. Number nine, American by Slayer from World Painted Blood. Really good album, and this is a really good song by Slayer. And finally, number 10, Boogeyman by Aerosmith from Get a Grip. Great instrumental and a great way to close out their 1993 album, Get a Grip. So Shoot the Shuffle is over, and now it's time to get to some Disney. And the first one I'm going to look at is Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And I think this was in 1937, I believe. And it revolves around just this princess, Snow White, who's the heir to the throne. And the queen, you know, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest one of all. Unfortunately, the mirror in this one doesn't talk like he's a game show host. Which is unfortunate, but I guess that's the way it goes. I guess they can't all be entertaining. But he says that Snow White is the fairest of all, so the queen wants Snow White killed. And the huntsman attempts to cut her heart out, but he can't do it, so he advises her to hide. And she hides in the dwarves' house. And what I really like about this is how all the dwarves have very distinct personalities. There's Happy, Doc, Grumpy, Dopey, probably missing a couple, Bashful, and you know, all those guys, and I think they're really cool guys. Snow White, on the other hand, is a bit of a bland character. There's really not much to her. I mean, she's not terrible, but she could have a little bit more character development. And a lot of the dialogue and even some of the songs sound very 30s and 40s, you know. And it's an interesting film. It's an okay film, I think. And it was a good way for Disney to start out. So the second one, Pinocchio. No, it's not Pinocchio's Revenge, though it'd probably be better than this film. Pinocchio is a bit of an interesting thing. and the story revolves around this puppeteer. I don't even know how you say it, but I'm just going to go and say puppeteer Geppetto, who longs to have a real boy, and the Blue Fairy comes and brings the puppet back to life, and she says that if Pinocchio proves himself to be selfless, then he can be a real boy. And what I like about it is that Pinocchio, he is kind of a real boy at times. He does behave kind of like a child, Like, he does want to do bad things sometimes. There's a lot of strange visuals in there. Like, all the boys that are bad, they get turned into donkeys and sent away to Fantasy Island, or I'm not sure if it's Fantasy Island or I really don't know I don't remember what the name of the island was. It was something like Fantasy Island. And I'm assuming that this is how Donkey from Shrek was created. Donkey used to be a human boy. He acted up. He was bad. So he got turned into a donkey. I mean, he was a bad boy, let me tell you. Bad boy, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? So, yeah. Pinocchio is actually a pretty good film. The only thing I don't like about it is Jiminy Cricket. I always found him to be very annoying and way too goody two-shoes, But other than that, I think it's pretty good. And the climax with Monstro the whale is really good, very action-packed. So I think Pinocchio is pretty good, though maybe Pinocchio's Revenge is a little bit better. But hey, maybe I'll find out soon. And the third one, Fantasia. Now this one is definitely worth talking about because it was really ambitious. And this was a pretty ambitious film because it's just kind of interesting because it's really not, it doesn't really have a narrative. It's basically a lot of segments, cartoon segments, set to music. Classical music in particular. And since I'm Metal Matt, emphasis on metal, I'm not the biggest fan of classical music in the world, so it's not really my movie. But objectively, I will say that it's a well done movie. Like, the animation is just spectacular. I remember the hippo and the tutu. I remember the night on Bald Mountain / Ave Maria. I remember the Sorcerer's Apprentice. There's a lot of great stuff in this movie. So objectively, it's a great movie. But as far as my personal tastes go, I'm not a huge fan of classical music, so it's not my taste. But I think it's a well done movie. And Night on Bald Mountain is really cool because they say that it's Chernobog, like this demon, but it's very obviously the devil. And I think even he says that, like, Bald Mountain, the guy that's narrating the film, is like, Bald Mountain is a place for Satan and his followers. So, yeah, it's basically the devil. And Ave Maria obviously wards off the devil, and it's very beautiful. And animation is beautiful, music's beautiful. Again, classical music's not my taste, but this is a great movie that's definitely recommended. And so the fourth one, and Fantasia didn't do as well as they were hoping to, so they decided to go back to the narrative movie for the fourth one. And this one is Dumbo. And this is a pretty cool little movie. It revolves around an elephant named Dumbo who's born with gigantic ears. Not that dissimilar to Ross Perot. And Dumbo, he kind of lives in the circus, and it's kind of from his point of view, kind of, as to how crazy the circus can be. And there's one point in the movie where he gets drunk, and the pink elephant's on parade. It's very well done. It's great animation. And then his mother, like, attacks somebody because they make fun of Dumbo. She's put away. And these crows come and they help Dumbo to fly with his ears. So that's pretty cool. Overall, I think it's a pretty interesting, cool little movie. It's not the best, but it's pretty interesting. And the fifth one, I believe, Bambi. this one I'm not too crazy about because I'm not a huge fan of nature, and that's pretty much all you see. And really, nothing happens in the movie. Like, the only noteworthy move in this one is Bambi's mother gets shot. That's pretty much it. And that's really the only thing that is worth remembering about this movie. Bambi's mother getting shot. And so it revolves around Bambi, a baby deer, and that he just lives in the forest with his mom and dad. And his dad's like the king of the forest. And we pretty much go through Bambi's life. We go from when he was a baby to a kind of a, I wouldn't say a teenager, but kind of like a kid. Then he becomes an adult. And overall, it's an interesting movie to watch. It's great animation, but other than the animation and Bambi's mother getting shot, I'm not a huge fan of this movie. And so, what Disney decided to do next is Saludos Amigos, and this one had a South American theme. And it's only 42 minutes long, so that kind of weirded me out a little bit. But it's a perfect little time waster. It features a lot of animators going to South America to gain inspiration for their animated features, and they came back and they see what they did. And the culture is interesting, but I wouldn't say I'm the biggest fan of this one. And I wish it was feature length, but yeah, I think it would have worked better as a like a little short or something like that they show before theaters. This one isn't really worth going out of your way to see. But if you just want to like kill some time, if you have some time to waste, I'd put this on in the background because it is pretty cool. But other than that, I don't really recommend it unless you got time to waste. And the next movie we have is the Three Caballeros, and I don't remember too much about this film. The only thing I remember is the fact that there are the Three Caballeros, Jose, Donald, and forgetting the other guy. What was his name? I don't know. I'll find out. But these three are pretty cool, and the animation is very quick. It's very great. And it's filled with a bunch of shorts like last time, but there is a bit of an overarching narrative in it all. Donald gets a package, which, by the way, Donald's birthday is revealed to be Friday the 13th, which is really interesting, and does kind of make a lot of sense. And Donald gets a birthday gift, and he tries to figure out what it is. And for the first act, it's Donald opening presents, and the third act is where things get really crazy. And it's a bunch of live action mixed with animation. And it just gets insane. Like, really, you have to see the movie to know what I'm talking about. Because if you have not seen the movie, you would not know what I'm talking about. It might even be on YouTube. I'm not sure if it's on YouTube or not. If it is, then go ahead and watch that last act. Because that last act is really insane. Like, in a good way, I guess, because it's just really kind of crazy. And that's the best way to describe it. And I can't really think of anything else to describe it as. It's just insane. Donald keeps going after a woman. The other guys are trying to chase him. And it's just so... It's crazy. It's definitely worth seeing. The movie is definitely worth seeing for that part alone. So I'd definitely go see it. And the next movie was Make Mine Music. And this one was pretty much trying to copy Fantasia. Which I'm not sure why they would even try and do that, because Fantasia failed. But the thing was, the animators at Disney were drafted into the war to do propaganda shorts. So they had kind of a limited kind of animated. So they decided to do just this to do it. And for what it's worth, Make Mine Music really isn't that bad. There's a few good shorts in there. The Whale Who Wanted to Sing at the Met is really good, and I won't dare spoil the ending of that segment, but it's something you gotta see for yourself. And Peter and the Wolf is pretty good as well. Casey at the Bat is also interesting as well. And Blue Bayou is interesting. And this was actually Blue Bayou segment was originally going to be done for Fantasia, but it was recycled for this film. And with this film, instead of classical music, it's more music that was popular at the time, like pop and jazz and all that stuff that people listened to back in the 40s. So overall, it's an interesting movie. I wouldn't say it's as good as Fantasia, but it's definitely worth seeing. And so now, next we go to Fun and Fancy Free. And I think this is better than Make My Music. This is probably the best one since Dumbo. And it revolves around two stories, Bongo and Mickey and the Beanstalk. And Bongo revolves around a bear, a circus bear who lives in the wild. And he longs to be in the wild, and he gets released into the wild. And he finds that he has a hard time fitting there until he falls in love with another female bear. And it turns out that bears show that they love each other with a slap. So that's a kind of a weird way to do it, you know. And the second one is Mickey and the Beanstalk, which is, I think it's better than Bongo. And it's basically the retelling of Jack and the Beanstalk, just with Disney characters, the classic Disney characters, Mickey, Donald, Goofy, and the Giant. And the Giant in this one is really interesting because he can change into anything. Like, he can transform into anything. Like, which is a really interesting take. So overall, I think Fun and Fancy Free is a lot better than some of the Disney films that came before it. It's probably the best one since Dumbo. So I definitely check it out. And the next one is Melody Time. And this was similar to Make My Music. And much like, it's pretty much similar to Make My Music. It's just with different segments. It still has that pop kind of jazzy thing to it. And there's not a lot of things that I remember from this one. I remember the bee and all the musical notes trying to kill him. And Fly the Bumblebee, I think it was. And then there was the Pecco's Bill segment, which I don't remember too much about. And Johnny Appleseed, which is pretty good. But other than those ones, I don't remember too much about this one. It's just a really forgettable, and I wouldn't really recommend it. And so now the final movie that we're going to be talking about of the 40s is going to be The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. And Mr. Toad starts out the movie, and it's explained that Mr. Toad is a very kind of modern kind of toad. Like anything that's fresh and new on the market, he's up on it. And suddenly he gets a motor car. And he gets obsessed with motor cars. And they frame him, and they believe that he's stolen it. And so it just kind of gets a little bit crazy. And then we have the second segment, Ichabod Crane and the Headless Horseman. And for the most part, that segment is pretty mellow, and it's narrated and sung by Bing Crosby. And for the most part, it's very calm. And one thing that I didn't realize was that Ichabod actually is a bit of a jerk, and that he wants the dad to die so that he can take his place and become rich and marry his daughter. And that's pretty interesting. And the Headless Horseman comes near the end of it. And it's great animation. It's very dark. And it's a total 180 from the rest of the segment. And the rest of the movie, for that matter. So overall, the 30s and 40s Disney, it was all right. It's not the best Disney in the world. Of course, it's way before my time as well. But some of these movies like Snow White, Fantasia, Pinocchio, Dumbo, and Bambi, basically the first five are really timeless and really great. The rest of them, on the other hand, not so much, but that's fine as well. So that's all for the 40s Disney, and I will be back tomorrow with the 50s Disney. So I'll see you then.